I can't keep doing this. I can't. I've told my friends and my family, the few that I have, and it's good to tell people when things like this happen, but I think by making this video, it's going to have a bigger impact. Unfortunately, it's not going to have the impact that it could have had if I would have made this video 2 weeks ago. But then I probably wouldn't have made the video. There was a man that I knew, and he won this contest. It was called the Putnam contest. The Putnam is basically the hardest math competition you can take. He won it in 1984 and in 1987 while he was an undergraduate at Harvard. This man was my college professor as an undergraduate when I took Abstract Algebra. And his name was Michael Reed. Dr. Michael Reed. You can look him up. You can Google Putnam competition winners on Wikipedia. You can see he won in 1984 and in 1987. He was a genius. He was a real life genius. And I know that I use the word genius a lot in titles. If you use the word genius, it's a popular word to use. Everyone wants to be a genius. Michael Reed was a real life genius. I remember one time he told me that when he was an undergraduate at Harvard, he didn't even study that hard. And I believe him. I think he was a real life genius. He was also the best teacher that I ever had in my life. I have never had a teacher that is so good. He would go to the board, and it's like he was writing a book on the board. I basically stole all of his strategies for teaching. Sometimes he would pause a certain way, and I would mimic that when I would teach my calculus students. He was a master. One time in his office, I was there with my friend, and I asked him, my friend asked him, not me. My friend asked him if he had always been a good teacher. And he told my friend, yeah, he's just always been a really good teacher. It just came naturally to him. He passed away like 2 weeks ago. One of my former students, she's awesome. She's finishing up her Ph.D. I'm going to send her this video. She messaged me because we keep in contact. She's really cool. And she told me that he died. So I just wanted to make this video so that the legend of Michael Reed lives on. And you know what? It lives on in my videos. Pretty much. Well, he was my abstract algebra teacher. So he taught me abstract algebra, which is my favorite math subject. And so I took his notes and I made videos. I made videos of the homework problems. I made videos of the class notes. I changed them up a little bit, but the style was his. I have a course on Udemy. Check it out, right? I'll leave a link. My abstract algebra course is 100% based on his notes. So in some sense, the legend of Michael Reed lives on in that course in some sense. I don't know much about his personal life, he wrote me a letter of recommendation for grad school. And again, he was just the best teacher I ever had. You know, you would just walk into a room and it's like he was writing a book. It's like writing a book. I mean, incredible, incredible. When I went to grad school, I was talking about some of the professors that were there. And he says, oh, I know so-and-so. So he was well known in the math community, Michael Reed. I mean, the math community is small. So if you know Michael Reed, you know, drop a comment. But yeah, he's gone. It's just really, really sad because for me, he was definitely, just get some water. He was definitely the most influential professor I ever had. He taught me how to really write proofs, you know, because you can take a proof writing course. So for all you math majors watching, you can take a proof writing course and you can feel like a hot shot. But once you get to like advanced calculus, linear algebra, abstract algebra, you're no longer a hot shot. And you can get a math degree and you can feel like a hot shot. But once you get to grad school, you're no longer a hot shot. Math is one of those things that will always humble you. But his legend lives on. You know, I made those abstract algebra videos. I mean, those were some of the first videos I made back in 2014, I think, because that's what I loved, right? Because he taught me that and he inspired me and he was such a good teacher. I mean, I've had so many good teachers in my life. This is not to discredit other math teachers I've had. I've had amazing teachers. I can make a list of all the math teachers that have influenced me. I mean, I've had so many good teachers. They're all excellent. But Michael Reed was different. Michael Reed, I just can't even, I can't, he's unique. I've never had a teacher that could teach like that. And I remember that day he told my friend, I've always been a good teacher. Oh, I didn't study when I was an undergrad. So, really cocky guy, you know, but I believe him. I believe him. He's not the kind of guy, or he wasn't, he's gone now. He wasn't the kind of guy that would, you know, talk smack, you know? I mean, maybe, but nah, he was good. And his proofs, they were elegant. I mean, anyone can write a proof once you know how, right? The question is your proof elegant? Is it simple? I had another teacher once on his website. It said something like, through simplicity comes beauty, something like that. And he was right. I mean, that's what Michael Reed embraced, you know, simple, elegant, well-written proofs. One time on a linear algebra test, because I also had him for a proof-based linear algebra class. So I had him twice, for abstract algebra and for linear algebra. He took off some points because he asked me to define the span of a set of vectors, and I used the word linear combination in my definition, and he wrote -1, define linear combination. I was so upset, and I'm still upset. It's wrong. I shouldn't have lost the point, but I'll give it to him. I mean, what choice did I have? So I just wanted to make this video just to maybe just put his name out there. I mean, he's gone. Best professor I ever had, Michael Reed. Putnam winner. The Putnam is hard. I went to the Putnam training sessions with him and another professor. And we also went to these other training sessions for some other math contests, which I scored a 2% on. That's a true story. I thought I aced the test, a competition, and I had the lowest score. It was really embarrassing. But I never took the Putnam, but I went to the training sessions with him, and he sat there. He'd make jokes. I think he made some joke to me. It was kind of passive-aggressive. It went way over my head. I usually don't catch jokes like that. But Michael Reed was a legend. He was a genius, a real-life genius. I mean, think about this. A guy who's in Harvard, doesn't study, wins the Putnam twice. Not just takes it, wins the competition. Okay? I think it's like the hardest competition in the world. It's like the most elite competition you can win while at Harvard. He went to Brown for his Ph.D. and he was an algebraist. And that's why his course was so good, I think, his Abstract Algebra course. That's why my notes were so good, because they were his notes, right? I took his notes and made videos, changed them up a little bit, not word for word, made it my own, right? I actually rewrote his notes, I think 3 times. So I took them once in class, and then I rewrote them. And then when I was in grad school, taking algebra, again, I rewrote them a 3rd time. And then when I finished grad school, started teaching for a couple of years, and then started YouTube. And then I remember when I started YouTube, those were some of the first videos I made, and eventually I put it into a course, and I'll leave a link, but 100% based off this man's notes. Amazing. The book we use for the course, I still think it's the easiest one, by the way. It's the book by Dan Saracino. I think that's the easiest abstract algebra book you can get. He also liked another book, by the way, which I'll recommend since I'm still talking. The book by Frelay. The book by Frelay is a little bit more advanced than the book by Saracino, but at least the older editions of Frelay, this is just a random nuance, they do the cycle multiplication backwards, which is a little bit weird. I think Wolfram Alpha does it that way too, which I just really bothered me. It's like abstract algebra is hard enough. Why are you doing things backwards? So anyways, I like the Saracino book. The Frelay book has more content. The Galleon book is also very good for abstract algebra. So any of those books, if you do get my course, would be good. But the Saracino book follows it very closely because those are Reed's notes. I took them for linear algebra, but I struggled in that class. I got an A-, and so I didn't like it as much. People like what they're good at. Anyways, Michael Reed, I mean, what a legend. And it was a hard thing to hear when he died. I actually had a dream about him. I actually forgot the dream. I remember waking up the next day, and my old student, or friend now, she's my friend, we talk a lot. She messaged me, and I said, I had a dream about Michael Reed, and I told her. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, oh. I think I woke up screaming. I was just really, yeah. And then 2 years ago, I think it's been 2 years now, my friend died. Yeah, well, this channel is G-rated. I don't want to talk about death too much, but it was a suicide. And he was also a mathematician, and he also took Michael Reed, so we all knew each other, So having Reed go after my really good friend go was just really hard, and so I wanted to make this video just to, I don't know, talk about it, put it out there. It's just really hard. Really good man, really good professor. The way he would explain things on the board, I mean, just, it was just like a book. It was like proposition, lemma, theorem, just so beautiful. And there's other great teachers out there. I'm not saying there's not, but Reed was a master at presentation. The words he would choose in his proofs, and I tried to mimic that. Even in my basic algebra classes, the way I would write on the board, a lot of times if you watch my lecture videos on YouTube, my calculus lecture videos, I'll go to the board and I'll write aside. That's Michael Reed. That's Michael Reed. He would do that. He would write aside. And I always thought that's a really good way when you're presenting something in class to kind of like not detract from the main presentation. Like, hey, I'm going to do an aside. So here's the main focus. Let's go over here and talk about this for a minute. So it doesn't take away from the presentation because you're specifically stating it's going to take away. So it makes the viewer, the person in your classroom, aware of what's happening. So it was just very, very good at presenting things. And I think that's rare. It's rare to see someone who was good at math, right? He won the Putnam twice, and also extremely good at presenting mathematics. A lot of times you'll get teachers who can't explain mathematics very well, and it's no fault of their own. I think a lot of times, I do think a lot of times things are natural, right? I think sometimes people are just naturally better at some things. I talk about that all the time. Some people are better at certain things. And so a lot of teachers, they can't explain well, but they're good at math. Then you have some, I've known some of these, not many, who are not very good at math, but they can explain well, right? So students like them because they're good teachers, but they're not really that great at mathematics. I've had some of those too, right? So it goes both ways. But Dr. Michael Reed, was unique in the sense that he was exceptional at both. In particular, he was exceptional at teaching and also very brilliant. You know, I should find my notes, but my notes are pretty much in my course on Udemy. So yeah, really good stuff. I think I added stuff to that course, a little bit of extra things, perhaps, that weren't in Reed's course. Maybe some things I picked up in grad school. I think it covers like maybe 70% of what you would learn in your typical undergraduate abstract algebra. It doesn't cover everything. Okay, but I think 70% is pretty good. And it's Michael Reed style, so that makes it even better. I wish I would have had the opportunity to take more courses with him, but he usually, during my time when I was a student, he usually only taught like honors calculus 3, because he was such a good teacher. They would assign him the honors classes. He's a hidden gem. Let's give him the honors classes. And the linear and abstract algebra courses, that's what he would typically teach. And his research, you can Google his name, you should, Dr. Michael Reed. His website's still up. If you Google it, I think it'll be the first hit. He did some weird stuff with tiling. I had a student who's also now an acquaintance friend, I've known him for decades now, who did an independent study with Reed. And they did research together, and they became really good friends. So yeah, he's gone. I just wanted to make this video to honor his legacy. I would have made this video earlier. In fact, when I first heard about it, I think it's been like 2 weeks, I wanted to make the video right away, but I didn't, mainly because I don't like revealing information about myself on the internet. There's a lot of scammers, and I get a lot of emails. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of shady characters, and I don't know. So now you know who one of my teachers was. No big deal. Dr. Michael Reed, 2-time Putnam winner. Yeah, he did some weird research with like tiling. I think and some other thing. I forgot the name. Polynomials. I forgot the word. I should look it up. I wasn't involved in his research or anything. I was just a student. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video to honor his legacy. And it's sad when one of your teachers dies. And I've had other teachers die. In fact, this is terrible. The teacher I had for abstract algebra in graduate school also passed away. But I think that was in 2016. He was an Indian man, very large Indian man. He I'll leave his name out of it. He knew Max Zorn. So Max Zorn, if you're still watching this, Max Zorn is the same Max Zorn who is responsible for Zorn's lemma. And so I can tell you some things about Max Zorn. Apparently Max Zorn, this is just a random comment because it's interesting, even in his old age, he would get up after like a talk in the math department. I mean, the guy was really, really old. And he would still have like some really deep questions. So, I mean, just brilliant. So even though Max Zorn was known for just Zorn's lemma, he was a very, very brilliant man and a very brilliant mathematician, which I think maybe a lot of people don't know, right? Because this is something I heard from someone who actually knew Max Zorn. Again, the mathematics community is very small. People know each other. So if you're watching this video and you know Michael Reed, you know who I'm talking about. So he was a very good man, a very good professor, and he will be missed. He will be greatly missed. I guess I'm going to post this video. Anyways, kind of a random video. Just wanted to make it because, yeah, he was the best I ever had. Living, well, not living, but he was a legend. As always, stay strong, my friends.